Welcome everyone. My name is Matt Valancourt and with me today is Vance Kozik from D-Link Systems. We're here today in Landisville, Pennsylvania at Sardinia Dental Group to give you guys a demonstration of a camera installation.
And what we're going to cover is walking the customer, as if you're walking the customer through a site survey in the building, figuring out what their surveillance needs are, figuring out the placement of the cameras, which model cameras to use, also the physical installation, the aiming of the lens, and finally how the cameras are viewed and recorded and played back.
And after we're done, we're going to have a live Q&A session as well. So if you have any additional questions of things that we may or may not have covered during the actual video, please feel free to ask at that point in time. Our main goal here is to just kind of break down some of the walls and some of the reservations that you may have in getting into selling and installation of IP surveillance systems, and more importantly, profiting from them. I wanted to note that before you get started on actually walking the building and doing your site survey, ask your customer if they have a floor plan of the location that you're going to be walking. It's very handy to have that while you go on your walk throughout the building so that you can either mark up on paper or on a tablet exactly where you intend to put cameras, why you're looking to put cameras there, and what kinds of cameras you're deciding on putting there. It's also going to help you later on when you're planning how you're going to run your cables, because you'll have insight into the structure and the walls of the building so you can better plan your time in running your cables as well. I'm going to start off by going through and I'm going to be showing you basically what the customer and I decided upon and what the customer voiced as some of their concerns when we were doing our walk throughout the building. The site survey is one of the most important things that you can do, because this is really going to give you all the input of what the customer's concerns are and what the customer's goals are for installing the cameras. So for camera number one, the customer's concern was our main entryway. And you can see here, this is our main entryway from the inside. And the customer was concerned with obviously people coming and going on all of the doors, so that in the event of some form of a break-in or a theft, he would have coverage of who was coming or going at the point in time in question. So our first camera is actually going to be installed right up here on the entryway. And where we chose to put this, and I'll give you a quick view of how it's going to look once installed. The reason we chose to put the camera there is so that when customers are or persons of interest are leaving the building, you have great footage of them exiting the building with them out expecting that they're actually on camera, as opposed to putting it in a corner like this, where you would have a view like this, where customers would actually see the camera as they're coming in. We want it to be a little more discreet with our camera placement so that customers don't feel like they're being imposed upon as they're coming and going throughout the building. So our next place that our customer had some concerns with and that they wanted to make sure was monitored is their business office area, which is where we currently are. So we've come in from our front entryway and you can turn the corner and you can see the area where the customers will be serviced. And obviously this is going to be an area of concern for a lot of customers because there's money exchanging hands, there's potential for people coming in and doing some not nice things. So you want to make sure that they're monitored so that you can cover all of your bases. So we actually have two low profile discrete cameras that we're going to put in this particular area. And the reason why we're going to have two mounted in here is so that we can cover from multiple angles. A lot of times in rooms that are going to be of importance for recording purposes, you're going to want to have more than one camera because as always, you're not going to be able to cover the space that's directly underneath or surrounding the camera. So the first position that we've chosen is this position here, and you can see our cable is waiting for installation of the camera. And this camera is going to show you the angle of the entryway and the main window where customers are going to be interacting. Our second camera is going to go up in this corner right over here. And this camera is more or less going to be covering the general area. So we have a focused camera over there that's going to be covering transactions and customers and interactions. And then we have a general monitoring camera, which is going to be here. And this camera is actually going to cover this entire area so that we can see a secondary view of things that are going on. So our next camera and our next area that our customers had concerns with, first off, we have 3 cameras that we're setting up in what is a main T hallway here, which leads back into the general dental area where patients are seen in the dental offices. This main hallway that we have here behind me is coming in from where we just were, where the customers would interact with the cashiers and the receptionist team. And we just wanted to have something very low profile, non-intrusive to put in this area for general monitoring of this hallway. So we're going to be mounting the camera right here in the corner. You can see again we already have our cable there sitting and waiting for our installation. And we're going to be monitoring this entire hallway directly off of that camera. So any customers or potential do-no-gooders that might be in the area coming or going down this hallway, we're going to have great footage capturing them. All right, our next camera that we were working on installing is actually going to be a 2-camera setup and the monitoring of this very long hallway that we have here. Now these are 2 exit points of the building. And there's another hallway here which goes back into the dental rooms, into the patient rooms. There's no exits back there that we need to be concerned about. So this area is going to be an important choke point where people are always going to be coming and going. So our next camera that we've chosen to put in, we're actually going to be placing right here. And as you can see, placement of the camera in relation to the door lends you to believe that we're not actually covering this door with this particular camera, not in a traditional sense. This camera is actually going to be monitoring all the way down the hallway. And as we did in our initial, as we did in our front entryway there, we have the camera mounted so that as someone would be leaving the area, they're going to be captured on film as they exit the building. Our other concern and the other reason why we were setting these up, not only to cover this entire hallway, was also the lighting from this pane on this door. Vance is going to talk a little more about that when we actually get into the installation process with the cameras, but there's a very good reason to be concerned about lighting and make sure you're paying attention to it, because you may need to install different cameras depending on what exactly your customer's goals are. So our next location that we're at, we're actually going to start diving into the exterior monitoring of the building. So to recap, on the inside of the building, we're actually setting up a total of 6 cameras where we're going to be monitoring the entryways, the exitways, the hallways, and the main choke points, and also the main area where money is changing hands and things along those lines. Another concern that the customer had was the exterior of the building. Living in the Northeast, and I'm sure most areas of the country have similar problems, where accidents might occur with vehicles, customers slipping and falling, other things going on along those lines that you want to monitor and have a record of. So we wanted to make sure that we had general monitoring of the parking lot. So the reason why we're up here in our creepy little attic is just so we could show you exactly where we were looking to monitor here. We're actually going to be setting 2 cameras up here out on our ledge. And the cameras are going to be monitoring the main entryway to the building and the very front parking area. And the second camera is going to be a wider angle view covering the entire parking area so that we can view both the approach of customers to the front door, which would then be transitioned to our interior cameras, and then we have general coverage of the entire parking lot so we can see exactly what's going on in any given position out there. All right, we're outside for showing you guys of the placement of our last camera that we have. And this camera is going to have a dual focus and a dual purpose. The main interest in this camera is monitoring the additional parking that we have on this side of the building, and we're also covering that additional exit way that we're covering from the inside that we showed you earlier with our inside hallway cameras. So we're actually outside that door that we were showing you before. Camera placement is going to be right here, and we're actually going to be using a vandal-proof dome camera. For obvious reasons, you can see that I can actually reach this on my own without having to get any additional equipment. So That's always a concern, and again, on the technical side of it, Vance will go into it a little bit more when we're installing the cameras. So our first purpose of this camera was to monitor this main area here, which has cars, and it actually houses their dumpster and their trash area. But also, we're going to catch in this is the entryway to the main facility. So their driveway is actually right behind us, and what we're going to capture with this camera is we're going to be able to see vehicles coming and going, and there's only one way in and one way out, and that's going to be it. Now, we are at a distance enough where we'll probably only be able to get descriptions of cars and colors of cars and things along those lines. We won't actually be able to get license plates, but again, that wasn't so much of a concern of this customer's, and we also have other cameras that we discussed earlier that are going to be covering those areas on the other side of the building, so that if someone is going to come in and their vehicle is over there, those cameras are going to be able to capture that information. So this camera is going to help us tell a complete story if necessary by showing both vehicles and people coming into the facility, and then our cameras on the other side of the building are going to show what's happening once they've entered the facility's parking area. Now that we've completed the walk of our customers' facilities and explained to you why we were going to put cameras where we were looking to put them, I did want to touch base on our IP Surveillance 101 guide. We'll tell you more about how to get a hold of one of these guides after the video, but I wanted to note that in these guides we have a pre-qualifying questionnaire with a bunch of questions that you can talk to your end users about prior to even coming out to their site. A site survey assessment form, which you will actually use while you're walking and doing the site survey to note exactly what the customer's needs are. There's also little tips in there as well, things that just help you along in guiding you in doing a site survey. Notes like to think like a thief, and to make sure you write down the customer's areas of interest and note all choke points. And one of the biggest advantages, make sure you bring a digital camera with you. It's very helpful to be able to put the camera up where the actual surveillance camera would be and take a quick picture so you can see the type of angles that you're going to be dealing with. Before we get started with the installation portion of our video, I do want to thank one of our VIP Plus partners, Low V Systems, based out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. They were a huge help in helping us get set up with running all of the cables and testing all of the lines prior to us doing this actual installation today. We'll explain a little bit later on in the video at the end what being a VIP Plus member means and all the benefits that you're going to receive from it. I would also like to note that all of our cameras today are running off of PoE switches that are also D-Link smart switches, and that's why you're only seeing one Cat5 cable run out to everything, because as you know, with PoE, that's all we need to get power and data out to our cameras. We decided to not go in depth about cable running today with you guys because we figure most of the resellers out in the marketplace today either have a third-party company they partner with or have people on staff to assist them in running cable. However, if you are interested or have additional questions, please feel free to ask them afterwards, or we can have offline conversations concerning them and even potentially partner you up with other customers in the area that already are running cable.
For the dental office lobby, we chose the DCS 6314 indoor-outdoor dome camera. This camera is a 2 megapixel full high definition camera, and it has a cable assembly that comes out of the back. There are various things attached to the cable assembly, including the Ethernet jack, audio, digital in, digital out, factory reset, and more, including alternate powering options. But in most cases, including the dental office, we're going to go with using PoE, so a single Cat5 cable running into the cable assembly. So you can see the cable assembly would get, in this case, put inside of the wall, and that just gets threaded through, and then we already have the mounting bracket that's included with the DCS 6314 pre-mounted on the wall, and we just slide the 6314 over that. This camera has a 3-axis gimbal, which means the lens can be pointed in any direction, up, down, left, right, and then it can also be rotated to make sure that the horizon line is level. This is important when you're wall mounting a dome camera. Now that the cameras have been physically installed, it's time to find them on the network. So we can use a search utility like the one that comes with the D-Link cameras. And we have one of the cameras here, the DCS6314, which is the camera that we installed into the lobby area. We'll bring that up now. Close this out. We have it defaulted to the smaller view, which is the second profile, so we can see the whole image at once. And we have the laptop available on Wi-Fi, so we can see the image that the camera is outputting while we're at the camera location. This makes aiming the camera much easier than having to be on the phone or on a radio with someone remotely viewing the camera. If you can have a phone or a tablet or a Wi-Fi PC near where the camera is, then you have something to guide your aiming. So I'll go ahead and climb up the ladder and get the camera positioned as we need. So I'm going to pan it back over here so we capture the doorway leading out of the building, as well as the area with some of the windows on the left. Come down and get a closer look and see that we have the shot perfect. We can see who's going to be leaving the building through this doorway here. And then this area is locked up, but we have a view over there in case someone is on that side as well. Now that we have our shot, it's time to use the tool that comes with the camera and put the cover back on.
For the reception area, we're using a pair of DCS 6210 indoor-outdoor vandal domes. And like the lobby area, this is also an indoor area, but we're using outdoor cameras, not necessarily for their outdoor weatherproofing, but for their vandal-proof capabilities. They're essentially IK10 rated, which means you can get a hammer and hit the polycarbonate dome and it's not going to break it. It has tamper-resistant screws and it's a metal case. So in areas where a customer can reach the camera, it makes sense oftentimes to use a vandal-proof camera. And sometimes the pricing is not that different from an indoor vandal camera. So in this case, we just went with the outdoor cameras. This also has a 3-axis gimbal, so it allows us to position the lens in any possible fashion that we require. This is also a full HD 2-megapixel camera. For the areas in the building where just the staff and the patients will be, we decided to go with the DCS 6113, which is a full HD day-night camera with infrared LEDs built in. This one's a little easier to install because it's designed for indoor use, so there's not an extra mounting bracket. Just a couple of screws put it right into the drywall. This is also PoE powered like all the other cameras, and it has a 3-axis gimbal. The camera assembly inside is a little bigger than the other models, so it's a little easier to work with when you're aiming and focusing. The plastic cover that goes over it just has a couple of set screws that are always in the case that just screw right in with a little security tool. And of course the last step is always to take the plastic covering off the dome. You don't want to take that off the dome prematurely because it is possible to scratch the plastic on the dome or get it dirty, get fingerprints on it, etc. So if you don't want to do that extra cleaning, just take the cover off at the end. The DCS 7413 and DCS 7513 are our premium outdoor bullet cameras. One has a fixed focal length lens, the other has a motorized varifocal lens. We chose these two cameras for the parking lot, one with the fixed wide angle and one with the ability to get a tighter shot in enhanced WDR. Basically to be able to see the activity in the parking lot, vehicles and people coming in and out. And as you can see, they're being hung on the outside of a concrete windowsill. The cameras come with a black mounting plate, and then the camera just slides over that and a security screw goes into place. They have a cable management bracket that hides the cabling from weather and from vandalism, and it's a great solution for capturing parking lots in any outdoor area. For the smaller rear parking lot of the dental office, we went with the DCS 6511 outdoor dome camera. This is a 1.3 megapixel with motorized lens. The reason we went with a dome, vandal-proof dome here, is because this parking lot has much lower access to the camera, so we decided to go with something that's vandal-proof. As with the 6314, the mounting plate is included. That's mounted to the wall first. Then the camera slides over this plate. 4 regular screws screw the camera to the plate, and then the dome cover goes over with the vandal-proof screws.
We're going to move on to the software management portion of our video today. We're going to show you 2 of the D-Link solutions to how you can monitor and play back your camera systems today. But I would like to note that D-Link cameras do play nice in the sandbox. They are OnViv compliant, so if you have a third-party video monitoring software that you are more comfortable with using and putting into your installations, your D-Link cameras will work with those as well. Before we jump into the different ways that you can manage the cameras, we are going to show you first how to get into the cameras and set some of the basic features up and the reasons why you would want to do these things. Using the SecureCam network tool, you're going to use that tool to be able to find all of the IP addresses for the cameras. So first thing you're going to want to do is change those over to static addresses so that you don't run into any issues in the future. While we're in there, we're also going to change the default passwords of all of the cameras as well. So you just go into the setup of the camera itself, enter in the default password, and then you're going to go into the network setup, change it over to static, and we're starting ours in the 200s, starting with 201. And then you click on Save and continue on through the remainder of the cameras. Also to note, while we're in here, I just wanted to go in and change the password on the camera to help better secure the camera from any type of network intrusion. If someone gets onto your network, they still have to know the password for the cameras in order to be able to get in and manipulate the cameras. Now we're going to move on to the NVR, which is the DNR322L. It's a standalone client which allows you to record, view, playback, and make changes from anywhere you may be. As long as you have an internet connection, you can remote back into this box. When you first start up the box, it's going to automatically detect all the cameras that are on the network, add them to the box, and then it's going to start manually recording them. And now we're going to go in and look at the main client that is on the DNR322L. And just on the note, the first time that you actually log on to the DNR322L, you're going to be asked to download a couple of ActiveX and other drivers that are necessary in order to make it work. This is just a one-time download in order for it to work with this browser. Now that we've let the NVR know the cameras and the passwords for the cameras and their static IP addresses, we can go ahead and add them into our interface. So we're just going to go down and double click on each one of these cameras, and you're going to see them populate into the display. And now you can see we have all 7 of the cameras loaded up, and there's a couple of things that you can do within the interface. You can drag and drop and move them around within the screen. You can turn it into full screen mode. And then once in that mode, you can actually double click on each one of them and it will bring it up into a full screen of that image. The red circles that are on the top rights of each of the boxes there let you know that it is recording. And again, because of how we initially set this up, these cameras are set to always record, and you can go in and change that in the settings of each of the cameras and within the NVR itself to record only on motion or record only on specific dates and specific times. Now we're going to go into playback mode of the software, and because we didn't actually record that much here initially, you can see that there isn't that much time there is to record. But what you can do is you can zoom in, and then you can take a look at where exactly we recorded and click on it, and it'll bring a little thumbnail highlight of the camera that you've pulled up on the display there as you click on each one. And then once you've found one that you like, you can just hit OK, and it will load it up onto your main screen. And then you can see you have some different toggles and dials that you can use on the bottom to fast forward through the different frames and skip ahead to specific points that you're looking for. What we're going to do now is we're going to go in and we're going to just set up the cloud access portion of the NVR. So just to recap, what we've already done is we've gone in and we've set up the recording and set up all the cameras to the box. And now what we want to do is allow you to access it from the internet. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to start up the startup guide here, and you're going to go through all of the steps, powering on the NVR, plugging it into your network, making sure your hard drives are in there. And then it's going to ask you to select a drive that you want to format. And because we've already actually done this on the previous screen, there's nothing that you need to do. Now what we're going to do is enter in our password and set up our management options for the unit. And then we're going to set up our internet connection. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and add this to our My D-Link NVR account. And simply, if you don't have one, it's very simple to sign up for it. If you do have one, you just enter your username and your password and verify it with your email, and then you'll be in. Now we're going to go ahead and log in through the mydlink.com portal, simply by going to mydlink.com and putting in our username and our password. And you can see the interface that I pull up here. I immediately have access to all of the cameras that are connected to the box, so I can pull each one of them up and view what is going on in real time. And you can see here we are connected over the internet. You can see a car pulling out, and then I'm going to flip to a different camera here. Hopefully I can do it quick enough, and you can actually see the car continuing down the driveway. And there it is right there. Just went by, and now it's going to head out onto the street. So I can pull up each individual camera via this app, either on a laptop, on a phone, on a tablet, whatever type of device you may be comfortable using, and you can view all of your cameras. Now we're going to go into playback. And in here, it's actually fairly similar to the playback on the actual firmware that comes on the box that we looked at earlier. And you can see it's a very familiar setup from your computer here on how you can check all the recordings. And you can see right now that they have 5-6 days of backed up recording on 7 cameras, recording all the time. And then we can pick a specific time and a specific date from the range there, and we hit play, and then it'll come up and it'll show us, whichever camera we chose, exactly what happened during that time frame. So those are the basics of the interaction that you can have with mydlink.com, and as long as you have an internet connected device, you'll be able to log in and play back and set up recordings and view the live feeds of all your cameras very easily from one convenient app.